Today, we're going to analyze the structure behind those manipulative design choices that we all encounter online pretty much every day.
The way dark patterns manipulate our clicks, it often feels normal.
But it is rarely accidental.
In the structure behind it, well, that changes everything.
You know, when we run into these really frustrating experiences online, most of us tend to assume one of two things. We either think it's an innocent mistake, just a poorly designed website, or maybe it's just some company using aggressive but standard business tactics. And that perspective is totally understandable because it treats the problem like a surface-level issue, something that's either just sloppy or simply part of a competitive marketplace.
But the thing is, these are not just random flaws. They're actually part of an invisible architecture, one that's deliberately built to steer our behavior.
The formal term for this is a dark pattern, sometimes also called deceptive design. It was coined by UX designer Harry Brignull, and it refers to those interface choices that are intentionally set up to benefit a business by tricking or misleading users into making decisions they wouldn't normally make if they were fully informed. These patterns are so effective because they exploit predictable shortcuts in our own thinking, what are known as cognitive biases. For instance, there's loss aversion, our tendency to feel the pain of a loss way more than the pleasure of a gain. That gets leveraged with confirm shaming, buttons that say things like, "No thanks, I don't want to save money." Then there's our default bias, which means we tend to just stick with pre-selected options. So of course, companies make their preferred choice the default. The anchoring effect uses a fake high price to make a sale look much better. And decision fatigue just overwhelms us with so many choices that we give up and accept whatever invasive defaults are there.
To really see how this works in practice, we can just look at a really high-profile case that involved Amazon's Prime subscription service. The Federal Trade Commission alleged that Amazon used a classic dark pattern known as the Roach Motel. Super easy to get in, but incredibly hard to get out. Signing up for Prime was almost frictionless. Sometimes it was just one click. But canceling? That was a deliberately difficult multi-step process. In fact, Amazon internally named this the Iliad flow, a reference to the decade-long Trojan War because it was designed to be a grueling ordeal. The whole point is the asymmetry, so simple to enroll but incredibly complex to cancel.
This really highlights the intent behind the design. This was no accident. Internal documents that came out from the investigation revealed that Amazon employees understood exactly what was going on, describing the practice of trapping customers in unwanted subscriptions as an unspoken cancer within the company. The consequences were pretty significant. The FTC secured a historic $2.5 billion settlement with Amazon. This included a $1 billion civil penalty and another $1.5 billion in refunds for about 35 million affected consumers.
So this brings up a pretty big question. If these practices can lead to such massive penalties, why are they so widespread? The answer really lies in the reinforcing loops that encourage them. The core of the issue is this conflict between short-term gains and long-term costs. For a business, a dark pattern can produce immediate, measurable results, higher conversion rates, more signups, increased revenue, and those are really powerful incentives. But the long-term costs, like eroded user trust, a damaged reputation, and reduced customer loyalty, those are much harder to quantify, and so they often get overlooked in the pursuit of those immediate targets. This behavior is reinforced by the very tools businesses use every day. A/B testing, for example, can be narrowly optimized just for clicks. So if a manipulative design gets more clicks, the system declares it the winner, regardless of how frustrated users are. This creates an environment where competitive pressure leads companies to copy manipulative tactics, and the friction of letting a user make a fully informed choice is seen as a direct barrier to profit. When you view all of this in aggregate, the impact of millions of these individual interactions extends way beyond just personal frustration. It has a system-level effect on the entire digital economy. The scale of this is pretty significant. A 2019 study by researchers at Princeton and the University of Chicago found that more than 1 in 10 popular e-commerce websites were using these deceptive design practices. So this isn't some niche problem, it's a widespread feature of the online landscape. And the cumulative effect is damaging. It leads to direct financial loss for consumers through unwanted subscriptions and purchases. It systematically erodes our trust in the digital world. It results in non-consensual data sharing on a massive scale. It even distorts fair market competition, putting ethical businesses at a disadvantage. And crucially, it disproportionately harms users who may be more vulnerable or less tech-savvy.
So the effect is not random.
It is structural.
And now,
you see it a little more clearly.